All right, everyone, good afternoon and welcome to our second part of our video discussion for today. Now, this session is dedicated to one of the most important tools in your teaching toolkit, which is the assessment rubric. Now, before I start, I want to ask a question to you. Think about the last time that you received feedback on your own work. Pwede performance siya or pwede siya o kanang product na inyong submit sa inyong teachers, inyong professors, and uh, think about that feedback. Did it give you a clear idea, or maybe did you think that it was a fair grading of your task or whatever, or did you walk away wondering exactly what the evaluator, what the teacher is looking for? Now, that feeling, that experience of unclear or inconsistent feedback, is precisely what a well designed assessment rubric is meant to solve. Now, rubrics don't just make grading uh, easier for teachers, they make expectations transparent and learning more intentional for the students. Now, over the next 30 to 45 minutes, I'm going to cover three interconnected things. So, first, I will explain what a good assessment rubric looks like. So, we'll talk about its components, characteristics, and structure. And then, second, we'll walk through a step-by-step process for designing your own assessment rubric. And then, third, we'll apply the five trait rubric in writing or in creating your own assessment rubric. So it will help you design your rubrics language and structure and so on and so forth. So this is a practical session for today. By the end of this session or the end of this video, you won't just understand rubrics conceptually, you will have the tools to sit down and write your own professional rubric for your IMA. So let's start at the beginning. So unsa gyud ni ang assessment rubric? Now, an assessment rubric at its core is a structured scoring guide. Now, it tells both the teacher and the student what is being assessed, and it defines what different levels of performance look like for each criterion. So, manotice niyo here in the slide that the rubric has three essential components. First is the criteria. Now, the criteria is the specific dimensions or qualities that you are assessing. So, it could be, let's say, for example, if na may writing activity for your student, it could be about organization or coherence or a structure ba ron sa writing or development or whatever. Now, the second one is a descriptor. Now, descriptors, and this is where most effort in creating a rubrics goes. Now, it is a written statement that tells the teacher what a product or a performance looks like at the given level of performance. So, dili nga kanang, oh, the writing is good. No, but how good is the writing? And specifically, what makes it good? So, as what I've told you earlier, what makes it good? And how that differs from an adequate level to a developing level to an excellent level. Unsa may kalainan niya. So, kung maingon ta nga, okay, let's say for example, the writing is, or the development of the ideas are uh, well made. So, how well made is it? Oh, so, unsa may descriptors or unsa may description sa performance or sa product and that particular criteria. So that's that. And the third one is the component or the rating scale. Now, this is a numeric number or qualitative framework. So, muna na ang mga excellent, very good, good, fair, so on and so forth. Uh, Now, this separates performance levels. Now, usually, atong ginagamit here in our class is a 5-point scale. So, uh, very important that you read through some of the 5-point scales o sa man mga levels of 5-point scales, or sometimes po mo gamit pa og 4-point scale. Now, here's the principle that I want you to hold on throughout this entire video. Now, the primary job of a rubric is not to make grading faster, though it will really help us as teachers. Makatabang siya nga mapaspas na to og grado ang mga trabaho, ang mga work or ang performance ato ang mga students. But it's not the primary job. Its primary job is to make learning clear. Now, a rubric shared with students before an assignment functions as a roadmap. It tells them what to aim for, what to prioritize, and what excellent looks like before they ever submit their work. So rubrics also promote fairness. They reduce the subjectivity in grading, and also solves problems like grading inconsistency. Like pareha raman mi og pareha raman mi og trabaho sir nganong different man mi og grade. So a rubric actually solves that already. Now, let's go deeper into what separates a good rubric from a generic one. So we're moving now to our first part today. So this section is about understanding before we build anything what a well-designed rubric should look like and think why. So why it should look like that and why it should look like that. So think of this as establishing your quality standards. So of course, we cannot build something excellent if wala ta kabalo how excellent looks like. So mo na ito ang guide in writing good assessment rubrics. Now, I have here 6 characteristics that distinguish a quality rubric from one that merely looks like a rubric. So, allow me to walk you through one and give you a concrete sense of what it means kung gamiton na gyud nato siya in writing an assessment rubric. First characteristic is a clear and specific criteria. Now, each criterion must be well defined and clearly tied to the learning objectives of the task. Now, if a student reads the criterion label, ang sa kana sa criteria, and then uh, dili sila makasulti unsa ilang dapat i-demonstrate. If they cannot tell what specifically they need to demonstrate, then the criteria or the criterion is too vague. Now, criteria is the plural. Sa criteria. Criterion is just the one. Okay? So that's why we're using criterion here. Now, writing quality. Kung writing quality, that is not a criterion. Clarity of sentence structure is. So you need to make sure that you have a specific and clear criteria. Next characteristic is distinct performance levels. Now, the levels in your rubric must be meaningfully different from one another. Now, ang common mistake man yun, when you do or when you create rubrics, is akala bitong descriptors, they essentially have the same idea restated at slightly different intensities. For example, kung excellent ang ato ibutang dira sa babaw sa rubric, and then ang excellent would say the writing is very clear. Then sa proficient nga level, mao na tag the writing is mostly clear. Then those levels are not usefully distinct. Unsaon man nato pagkabalo kung unsa ang writing is very clear versus writing is mostly clear. So, they would not know if bisag ihatag pa nimo sa mga students, they would not know, sir, unsa may meaning aning the writing is very clear? Unsaon man namo pagkabalo nga ang among gisuwat klaro versus the writing is mostly clear. What's the difference? So there is no distinct performance levels. Okay? So, when we write good assessment rubrics, it has to be clear enough. Claro. And this is where clarity comes in writing, technical writing. Now, characteristic 3 is observable and measurable. Now, each descriptor, the descriptor of the performance should describe something that you can actually see in the student's document. Example, moingon mo dira nga, demonstrates creativity. Unsaon man na pagkita sa teacher, unsaon man na pag-replicate sa students ang demonstrates creativity. Dili man na nimo makita ng creativity. Well, instead you can use use at least 2 data references to support the student's central argument. So kana that is observable because makita uy nigamit siya og duha ka data points. So makita nimo, so that is observable and measurable. Again, if you cannot point it on the page, you cannot score it reliability. If dili ninyo makit-an with your eyes, then you cannot score it reliably. Now, characteristic number 4 is consistent language. Now, this is about parallel structure across your rubric. Now, kung may tagang excellent level says that writer demonstrates, then all other levels should also say the writer demonstrates. Dili nga mayon ka sa usa ka row kay the evidence of blah blah blah, and then sa second row mayon ka nga the student shows blah blah blah, then sa third row mayon ka the student demonstrates blah blah blah. Now, it's very confusing. Parallel language makes comparison intuitive and reduces implicit bias. It will help you as a teacher when you grade your paper. Okay, so again, make sure that you use uh, parallel structure. Characteristic number 5 is appropriate weighting. Now, not all criteria carry equal importance in every task. Dili, a rubric designed for a, let's say for example, as a argumentative essay, example, it could be nga mohatag lang ang sa argumentative essay mohatag siya og 10% sa accuracy. But the development of the argument kay tagaan niya og 30%. Kanang ang criteria. So two criteria, for example, accuracy. So grammar, spelling kay 10% lang ihatag, but the development of the argument tagaan niya og 30%. Because when you write an argumentative essay, dapat mas tindog yun imuhang pag-build sa imuhang arguments compared to the grammar. I'm not saying na dili importante ang grammar ha. It's just that naay different nga weighting depende sa inyong priority in your classroom. Okay? So for example, nagpabuhat mo og poster, of course, ang inyong ay ko ina inyong tan-awon dai sa poster kay ang kuan di ay ang words di ay, di ba dili ang kuan gyud ang visual impact niya. So mga ingon ana ang inyo tagaan og mas bugat nga weight, mas bugat nga percentage, which again I will show you later. There's an example. And characteristic number 6 is accessible to student. Now, this is often very overlooked. Now, a rubric that students can use before, during, and after the activity na imong ipabuhat sa ilaha is far more powerful than the one that only appears at a grading time. So if the student can pick up your rubric, mabasa na nila imong rubric, and then immediately know what they need to do, kabalo dayon sila unsa ilang dapat buhaton, then you have done your job as a teacher. Now that we know what a good rubric is characterized by, let's look at one very good example of a rubric. And you see here, it's a sample analytical rubric in its most common form. So table siya nga naay criteria dira sa babaw. Kita-na ninyo ang kanang excellent, proficient, developing, and beginning. That's the criteria. Sorry. Criteria is kanina yung content and accuracy, organization and structure, and then clarity. So you have the criteria listed on the left column over there. Performance level on the top row. So mao na ang excellent, proficient, developing, and beginning. And then, ang descriptors na dayon ni fill sa mga cells. So, starting from the top row, you have the 4 performance levels. So, mao tong gingon, excellent, proficient, developing, and beginning. So, they correspond to the scores of 4, 3, 2, and 1. Though sometimes, as teachers, pwede ta mo gamit og 5, and my personal preference is a 5-point rubric. But you are free as teachers to use whatever you have to use. Ayaw lang po nang musubra na sa 5 kay murag kanang too much na pud kaayo. Now on the left column we see the 3 criteria: content and accuracy, organization and structure, clarity and language. Now, so tinuod nga rubric usually ang inyo makita ng mga criteria is around 4 to 6, but kanilang example lang gani akong gihatag sa inyo ha. Now, look at every single cell there. Let's say for example kana content and accuracy. Right there at the excellent level. So it reads all information is accurate and fully supports the purpose. Now notice several things about this. Ang language kay specific. The qualifier all establishes a very high bar. Kinahanglan tanang information na ilang gihatag is tinuod yun and accurate, and fully supports the purpose, connects the criterion back to the document's function. And this is what a well-written descriptor looks like. Now, usually as teachers mo gamit ta og 4 do mo gamit po ta og 5. Uh, very uh, the issue man gyud with using 5, and I'm just gonna point this out. Uh, Usually man gyud mo gamit ta og 5, especially if dili ka kamao mo score, kay you usually go with the middle, the number 3. So kuan siya kanang playing safe ra kay siya. So kung may tag a 4-point scale, like ingon ani, mapugos yung ka og pili gyud kung unsa gyud ang competence sa inyong students regarding the product or the performance na inyong gipabuhat sa ilaha. So this is much more useful for them. But dili ko mo judge if mo gamit mo og 5. But the suggested uh, is 5 or 4 depending na gyud na ninyo. Now, one more thing to notice about the sample rubric is I want you to look at the row on clarity and language at the beginning level. It says frequently unclear language inappropriate. Now, the word frequently is doing important work here. It tells us a pattern, not an isolated instance. So, good descriptors use frequency words, so consistently, occasionally, frequently, to signal how pervasive a quality is throughout the document. Now, before we move on to the second part of our lecture today and learn how to build a rubric, let's take a moment to look at the main types of rubrics so that you can choose the right tool for each assessment task. So there are three types of rubrics, and this will be discussed sa inyong assessment of learning, if I'm not mistaken. But each of these has different strengths and best use cases. But for this discussion lang, dili lang kay ko mo tackle ani kay ma-discuss magyapon ni ninyo sa inyong assessment of learning. But um, holistic holistic rubric is very kuan lang. Dali ra kaayo siya kay single score ra gyud siya. So uh, then dili po siya accurate. Analytical rubric kay each criteria mag-define yung kag criteria then mo gyud imong graduhan. Single point rubric samot na nga very uh, very uh, di po siya inaccurate, but kuan siya kanang dili kayo siya gamit kay usa ra gyud yung tan-awon. So di ba sa analytical kay daghan man ta criteria, kada sa single point rubric usa ra gyud na ka criteria ilahang gamiton. So kana siya. Those are the types of rubrics. An example of a holistic rubric is, let's say for example, I'm grading you in your reporting. So, grade ko sa your reporting na alam ko'y kuan mo ana na ko nga okay, tagaan na nako sila og kuan, tagaan na ko sila perfect score or kani sila kuan na ni sila 47, 46 usa ra gyud naka-score. Analytical rubric na yung mga criteria, so, which is you're familiar with. And we've used that one before in our IMAs. Now, single point rubric is basically, lisod siya iko. Kani-kani, example on TLE. Uh, of course, ang imuhang kuan, when you taste food, mo taste yung sa kalami. You grade it according to the kalami of the food. So, that is the single point rubric. Okay. Now, the remainder of the today's session will be working primarily with the analytical rubric, as what I've told you, since it is most useful in our IMA. Now, let's move on to part 2. How to build one of these rubrics from scratch. So, unsaon yun na nato pag buhat ang kaning analytical rubric. So we'll follow a 6-step process for this part and think of it as a framework na inyong sundon. And it won't make any decision for you, but it will keep you from missing critical steps. And here's the 6-step process at a glance. I want you to see the complete picture first before ato ni ibutang into detail. So step 1, identify the task and purpose. Step 2, determine the criteria. Step 3, define performance levels. Step 4, write descriptors. Step 5, assign weights. And step 6, pilot, review, and refine. Now, notice the actual writing of the descriptors. The part most people jump to immediately. Kaya naa sa step 4. Because you cannot write good descriptors until you've done the foundational work sa steps 1 to 3. So it's like writing the answers before you know the questions already. And notice that the process does not end when you produce step 6. Actually, dapat na mobalik na siya sa 1. Pero I think na miss out na ko ang line. But uh, a rubric that has not been tested uh, against real student work is a rubric with unknown problems. So it just doesn't end with a draft, but you also need to pilot and refine it one. And then, balik na po siya kung need to improve, need na po siya mabalik sa step 1. Identify the task and purpose. So, that's that. So, let's start with the foundation. Identifying the task and identifying what we are assessing. Now, before you write a single criterion, ask yourself 4 questions about the assignment, the product, or the performance that you are assessing. First, what type of product or performance are you uh, is being produced for that particular project? Is it going to be an essay? Is it going to be a script for a play? Or is it going to be a performance? Is it going to be a speech performance? Or is it going to be a presentation or whatnot? So, the type of product or performance actually determines which conventions matter. And those conventions should shape your criteria. Now, the second question is, what learning outcomes does this task assess? Now, every criterion in your rubric must trace back to a learning objective ninyo sa inyong klase. Now, if you cannot measure the course outcome, a criterion is measuring, so reconsider whether it belongs in the rubric. Now, third one is, who is the intended audience for the rubric itself? So, is it primarily a student-facing guide, or kanang para ra ba ni siya sa teacher, or could it be for both teacher and the student? So this affects how technical your language should be in your rubric. And fourth, is this a formative or summative assessment? So a rubric for a first draft is different from a rubric for a final portfolio. So formative rubrics can be more process oriented. Summative rubrics focus on the final product. So final product quality. So we have stated there as well step 2, which is to determine the criteria. Now that you're ready to determine your criteria, which is the list of dimensions na inyohang i-grade. This is where a lot of teachers get into trouble by trying to assess every single thing. So I want you to resist that impulse. Ayaw mo ka-tempt nga inyo i-grado tanan. Keep your criteria to 4 to 7 items only. Okay? More than 7 criteria dilutes the focus of both the student and the teacher. So keep it lang 4 to 7 lang criterion 47 criteria ang inyohang i-grade sa mga students. Ayaw na kayo daghan na, because what we need is that each criterion should be narrow enough to describe to describe in 1 or 2 sentences, and broad enough to be meaningfully distinct from others. So use noun phrases for the criterion levels. So di ka mo ingon nga sa kanang criterion na inyo ibutang, di ka mo ingon nga, is the document well organized? So just one word or a phrase lang, organization. Don't do does the student use appropriate language? No, but rather use language and tone. So noun phrases are cleaner, more authoritative, and easier to scan. Okay, now at the bottom of the slide you see there the common criteria used in English writing. So content accuracy, organization, clarity of language, audience awareness, do sa technical writing na siya, document design as well, or kanang uh, nindot ba paggagamit ang space and all, conciseness, mechanics, and grammar. So these are just starting points, not a required list. So choose the criteria that match your specific assignment and your course outcomes. Now, once your criteria are set, the next decision is how many performance levels you need and what those levels look like. Now, for step 3, we are now going to choose a rating scale. So, you have three main scale options. So, you have the 4-point, uh, which is uh, which is what I recommend. But if may nagid kayo mo grade, you can use the 5-point scale. Uh, Often exemplary above excellent, and or a stronger unacceptable at the bottom. So kita na ninyo ang mga descriptors there: exemplary, strong, adequate, weak, and unacceptable. So this gives you more granularity, or mas specific gud ninyo kung unsa gud ang uh, performance sa inyong mga students. Okay? Uh, Now, the 3-point scale, this is very fast and very clear. Meets expectations, approaching, or not yet, and not yet. It works for shorter tasks, but kanang dili kayo ko mo suggest ani kay it's not that specific. Okay? But again, for your IMA, you are going to do the 5-point scale. Now, ato ta sa step 4, writing effective descriptors. Okay, kay na mga examples. This is the more labor-intensive step, or rather most labor-intensive step in our activity for today, writing the actual descriptors. Now, this is where rubric quality lives or dies. Now, this is the core principle. Every descriptor should describe something observable in the student's work. As what I've told you, dapat makita siya sa mga students. Something you see, something you point, something that you can count. Let me give you some do's and don'ts. Now, first, do use action-based language. Now, unsa pasabot ani sir? Now, instead of the writing is clear. So, write sentences are consistently structured for single unified ideas with no ambiguous pronoun references. So dili lang ka musulti nga the writing is clear. Okay? So the action is in the writing itself. The observer simply checks whether it is present. So when you write your descriptors, dapat na agad say action unsa may mahitabo ana nga particular descriptor. Number 2, do be specific about quantity or degree. So words like all, most, some, few, none carry meaning. So I know nga sa ato ang writing previous writing class ingon ko nga ang kanang all, most, some dili gid siya nindot nga gamiton, but in a rubric okay ra siya, acceptable ra siya. So for example, all technical terms are defined at first use. So when kag all, so dapat tanan gyud ang mga technical terms na gigamit kay gi-explain. So that is a standard. So most technical terms are defined. So that signals a different level of performance. So ang kay ang most ug ang all dili man na sila parehas. Kay most they get it mostly correct, but naay uban na mga sipyat. Compared to all nga tanan gyud ang walay sipyat. Tanan gyud ang terms kana describe. So ana siya. Next, do use parallel structure across all cells in the same row. As what I've told you earlier, mayon mo nga sa excellent level, the writer demonstrates, dapat sa proficient, sa developing, sa beginning po, dapat the writer demonstrates po na siya. Okay? Just with different adjectives or outcomes attached. Lahi-lahi lang ang after, but magsugod the writer or the student demonstrates, so on and so forth. Next is, don't use vague qualitative adjectives without anchoring them. So, mayroon ka nga, the good organization. Di ba? How do you define good organization? So, to fix that, it will be like this. Sections follow a logical sequence tied to the essay's stated purpose with explicit transitions between all major parts. Now that one is a very good descriptor. Dili nga mo ingon ka good organization. Okay? Next, don't simply negate the higher level. So, kumayo ka nga, score 2, not as organized as score 3. Napatay. That is totally unhelpful. Ayaw po gamit og negating terms. So, what is negating term? A negative term. Okay? So, describe what is present at each level, not what is absent from the one above. Again, remember, describe what is present on each level. Unsa may makit-an nimo dapat sa kana nga level. Okay? Not what is absent from the one above. Now, final two steps of the process involve scoring structure and quality assurance. Now, step 5 it goes to aligning weights. Now, not all criteria are equally important in every assignment. Now, when you use weighting, it allows you to encode your priorities as a teacher into the rubric structure. For example, kaning criteria for kaning rubric for technical writing that you see here on your screen. You see there that the content accuracy is only worth 30%, while document design is worth 20%. So, kung mabasa na sa inyong mga students, and when I read that one, I understand where to invest the most effort. So, ako, as a student, when I do your task, like, okay, dapat na ako mo focus sa accuracy rather than the document design. Kaya mas dako man og points ang accuracy. Okay? So, iyon anaon pag assign sa inyong weights. Now, a few principles to for weighting decisions. First is let the assignment's purpose guide you. Unsa man yung reason why nagpa-assignment mo ana sa inyong mga students. So, for example, kung magpa-write mo og argumentative essay sa inyong mga students, then that will focus on the quality. So, let's go to the step 6, pilot, review, and refine. Now, a rubric's first draft is never its best version. So before you distribute a rubric to students, it should go through a validation process. So step A first is to pilot the rubric against a sample work. So find papers nga inyong na check in your previous grade level or previous years, and then check inter-rater reliability. This is so technical, so I'll just skip some of these. So student review, revise ambiguous descriptors, and then makatabang ang inyong pilot and reviewing and refining to revise the ambiguous descriptors, because there are some descriptors na inig ka first draft ninyo dili din yun ninyo makuha, like ambiguous siya, so you try to be flexible, okay, and then change it and then iterate every or each school year. Now that we've covered both what a good rubric looks like and how to build one from the ground up, the third and final part of our session for today is where we elevate our work. So we will apply the specific framework of the five trait rubric to guide the decision that we do in creating our own rubric. And that is where we go with the very important uh, portion of our session for today. So let's look at how we can apply the five trait rubric in writing. Okay. Now first is sorry, not first. Just a review on the five trait rubric. That's going to be clarity, conciseness, accessible document design, audience recognition, and accuracy. So the insight here, and which is for all of the writings that you will be doing in this class, the rubric is a technical writing. It is a document produced for professional purpose, directed at a specific audience with specific information that you have to convey. Therefore, the same standards apply. So when you look at the table on this slide, it shows you each trait paired with a guiding question that you, as the writer, should ask yourself as you design the rubric. So for clarity, Are my descriptors specific and unambiguous enough for two different teachers, that two different teachers would give the same score to the same paper? For conciseness, are my descriptor cells free of padding? Does every word in each cell earn its place? Pasabot ana nga uh, walay mga walay what they call this, padding. I'm not sure how to describe the padding to you, but ini kanang allow me to skip. So ato ta sa document design. So is the rubric visually organized so students can scan it quickly and locate any criterion at a glance? Okay. Padding actually is a term nga mura siyang space bitaw sa kwan. So kung taas kay dako ka inyong descriptors, dapat mo dako pa ninyong cells dili siya ma-overlapan sa padding. So kana siya. Next is audience recognition. Have I written descriptors that make sense to students and not just to experienced teachers? And then lastly, for accuracy, ang performance levels ba and the descriptors are factually sound and aligned to the actual task requirements. And of course, sulod na po diri ang grammar. Okay? Now keep these 5 questions in mind as we go through each trait in detail. So we will look at concrete examples of rubric language that fails each standard and then revisions that meet it. So, ato ta sa first, which is clarity. Now, clarity in rubric writing means that every descriptor is so specific and unambiguous, wala gyud space for ambiguity, that different evaluators or different teachers reading the same rubric would arrive at the same score for the same piece of student work. And mo na tong giingon nga inter-rater agreement. Now, when a rubric fails the clarity standard, the result is what researchers call holistic creep. So, instructors who intend to score analytically end up relying on a general impression of the product or the performance because the descriptors are not specific enough to anchor their judgment. So look at the before, aning a slide. The first one says the writing is good and easy to understand. The descriptor fails on 2 counts. First, good is purely evaluative. Subjective kaayo siya. It tells us nothing about what the qualities make the writing good. What makes a writing good? Wala man dira. The second, easy to understand is a reader response, not a text characteristic. Magdepende siya sa reader. Again, subjective gyapon siya. Two readers might disagree completely on whether the given piece or given performance is easy to understand. Now, ang after version, tanawa ang after version niya. Ideas are expressed in precise, unambiguous sentences. Technical terms are defined at first use. The reader never needs to reread for meaning. Now, I can have something that I can check kung ako ang mo grade aning product. I can look at the sentences. Are they precise? Are they unambiguous? And then, mabuhat na ko is I can scan for technical terms. Are they defined? Na-define ba sa imuhang writing ang mga technical terms? I can reread. Pwede na ako ni ma-reread. Do I need to reread for meaning? And all of three are observable. Therefore, all three are scorable. Now, the second before example reads, the document is poorly organized. Now, the word poorly is doing all the work here. And it's doing very badly. Kaya again, mubalik na sa tong question, what makes organization poor? What would make it better? Unsa man, how would you define a poorly organized document? Wala man kakabalo. And how would you make it better? Wala man again, wala kakabalo unsa imong gina-score. So look at the after version or the clear descriptor. It reads, sections have no clear hierarchy. Headings are absent or inconsistent. Transitions between paragraphs are missing or illogical. Now, naana kay 3 specific observable failures. Kung makuha ganin sa mga students, then that means adto ka mao na ang mohang grado niya. Kung asa na nga descriptor na belong ang kana nga text. And now, the student, kung magbasa sila na, ay, okay, dapat mo dapat na ko'y clear hierarchy, ay dapat di ay na ako'y headings di ay, or dapat consistent akong headings, akong transitions dapat kay akong transitions kay dapat naa. So yun na siya. Now at the bottom of the slides, you see 4 practical tips for applying clarity when writing uh, rubric descriptors. So use observable verbs kanang mabuhat nila, makit-an nimo as a teacher. Specify the degree or the frequency kanus aman, all, most. So kana siya, kana makit-an gud niya, and test the descriptor with a colleague before finalizing it. And avoid adjectives without anchors. So pasabot ana, sir, yun ka, very good writing. Unsa may good sa writing? How will you define good sa writing? Wa say anchor ba? So mo na yung pasabot ana. Okay? Now, clarity tells us to be specific. But specificity, again, without utility, di na to magamit, is can bloat a rubric into an unusable well of text. So, this is where the second text comes in, which is the conciseness. Now, conciseness means conveying each performance standard in the minimum words necessary without sacrificing the specificity. Now, this is a balancing act. The moment that we apply clarity and we get specific, there's a temptation to keep writing until we've covered every possible scenario. Matemp mo nga, is what nalin ako. Kay, I don't want to miss this one. A rubric cell should aim for approximately 15 to 30 words. Again, it's going to be 15 to 30 words. Anything longer risks being skimmed na. Skim na lang ako misread, masayop nila og basa, or simply ignored, especially by students who are consulting the rubric under time pressure. Now, if you look at the 3 conciseness principles on this slide, principle 1 is one idea per cell only. Now, before example bundles multiple criteria, daghang kay multiple criteria dira, understanding of topic, uh, clarity, organization, transitions are all crammed into one cell. So this is a double failure. So it violates conciseness and the distinctness of the criteria. So awa ang after. Sa after kay very ginarrow na lang yun niya into single pa yun, to a single observable quality, the logical sequencing with clear transitions. So yun ana ang sakto nga descriptor. Number 2 is to cut filler phrases. Now, we've learned already how we eliminate phrases that are too long or sometimes nga too much na makaayo ni. So your rubric should not be an exemption. So if you look at the before phrase, it is evident that the student has made an effort to ensure that. So delete all of that. The after version says the same thing in 6 words. Writing is consistently clear and reader appropriate. Klaro. So ayaw pala sa make an effort to shorten it. Third principle is use fragments intentionally. Now, rubric cells, kanang mga box sa rubrics are reference items. Dili siya mga paragraph. Okay? So, it is entirely acceptable and often preferable to use noun phrases or sentence fragments. You don't have to write it in complete sentence. Okay? For example, consistent, thorough application of design principles throughout is 6 words. Now, the padded version, tanawa ang version, 22 words siya kabuok. Now, the student reading the rubric before an exam will appreciate those 16 saved words. So clarity and conciseness govern the language of individual cells. Now, the third trait addresses the rubric's visual structure as a whole. Now we go to the third one, which is accessible document design. Now, this is often a neglected dimension of rubric quality because it sits outside the content of the rubric. Di magid siya content sa rubric. So, sometimes makalimtan ni siya. So, teachers focus on what the descriptors say and give little thought to how the rubric looks and how the reader navigates it. But consider this, a student will consult your rubric multiple times, balik-balikon na nila og tanaw imong rubric. And when the assignment is issued, while drafting, during sa ilahang pag-check sa ilahang work, uh, if ang rubric lisod kayo siya i-navigate, then students will abandon it. And a rubric that is not used is a rubric that is not working. So we have here 6 design principles na magamit ninyo in your writing of your rubric. Use a table format. So grid layout makes criteria and performance levels instantly scannable. Because if you're going to use a prose rubric, kanang murag paragraph nga rubric, it requires linear reading, magbasa pa ka, then wala, kapuyo na dayon yung mga estudyante, or bisag ka mo, kapuyo na dayon mo. So, dili pa ninyo ma-compare side by side ang mga criteria. So, don't use that one. Always use a table format. And that's why makita na sa inyong mga teachers na mo gamit ng rubric, kaya i-table format yun nila. Number 2, consistent cell size. So, uniform row heights signal equal importance across criteria. Now, if na usa ka row dira, twice the height of another, then students will read that as a signal nga mas dako pa na siya nga criterion even though nga dili na mao imong intention. So, make sure that the cell size is consistent. Third one, color code your performance level. So, assign consistent color to each performance level. So, for example, kung gamit mo og 3-point rubric, so green kay excellent, yellow for developing, and then red for beginning. So, and this allows students to recognize their patterns across criteria at a glance. And this is very effective when you return the graded rubrics to the students. Next, bold criterion name. So, kanang mga criteria ninyo, make sure nga naka-bold siya. Left column, criterion. Labels should be visually distinct from the descriptor. Dapat na siya'y difference. So, make sure that you use a bold or a different color or a larger font rather. This will help you help it to be distinct. So you can bold it or you can use a different color or slightly larger. Pwede rin na siya. White space between rows. Now, a rubric with cramped rows. So pasabot ng cramped rows, sir. Kanang kuot kaayo ang mga text is harder to read and more prone to scoring errors. Now, give each row room to breathe. This is especially important when you print out these rubrics in your classes. And next is readable font size. Very obvious na kaayo, but rubric is usually formatted on size 8 on a single page. Sorry. Very obvious na gid siya, but kung mogamit mo og 8 as your font size, gagmay kaayo siya. And because of how small it is, inaccessible na siya sa imuhang mga students, both visually and psychologically. So, at least use font size 10 upwards for your descriptor text. Now, if dili siya mo fit, then you have to reduce your word count instead of the font size. Now, design makes the rubric usable. The fourth trait, makes sure it speaks to the right people. Now, audience recognition, right here, may be the most pedagogically rich of the 5 traits as it applies to rubric writing because it forces us to confront attention that many teachers don't think about explicitly. Now, rubrics have 2 audiences simultaneously. It serves students first, who will use it to guide their writing or to guide their performance or to guide in their creation of the product and help them understand their grades. Now, it also serves for the teachers or the instructors. You and any colleagues that might use the same rubric. You need it to be precise enough to support reliable scoring. And these two audiences sometimes have competing needs, but the rubric must serve the both of them. So when writing for students, think about their starting point. So terms like, let's say for example, maingon mo nga syntactic cohesion, discourse, transitional topicalization, mga buang inyong mga estudyante kung inyo nang gamiton. So, might as well replace that abstract term with a concrete description of what it looks like in student performance. Or, let's say for example, kung writing inyo ipabuhat nila. Okay? Now, writing in the second person can be effective for student-facing rubrics. So your document uses headings that reflect the hierarchy of information. That is a more direct and actionable item than the document demonstrates appropriate use of headings. So try writing as well in the second person. Okay? This transforms your rubric from an evaluative instrument into a coaching document for your students. So, tabangan ninyo yung mga students. Now, for the teacher side, the language needs to be precise enough to anchor calibration conversation. Kasi pasabot ani, again, kung ako o usa ka teacher mo score ana nga inyohang work, we should be able to score the same score to you. Okay? So, mo na ang pasabot sa calibration discussions. If you and your colleague Again, if you and your colleague are both grading the same assignment with the same rubric, dapat specific yun ang inyong descriptors enough that you can discuss your disagreements productively. Now, one of the most important, valuable things that you can do before finalizing a rubric is to share a draft with students before the assignment and ask, nababaylain diri nga wala nila nasabtan. Is there anything here that they do not understand yet? Now, the questions that they ask are diagnostic. Any descriptors that generates 3 or more questions from students needs to be rewritten. So, hindi pabasa ninyo sa inyong mga students, ang mga anak sila, ma'am, wami kasabot ani, wami kasabot ani, wami kasabot ani. Kung maabot na ganyan, nag 3 or more questions, then kinahanglan i-rewrite ang inyong tibuok rubric. Now, the final trait, accuracy, addresses the questions of whether the rubric is factually and structurally sound. It is in some ways the most serious. An inaccurate rubric does not just provide poor feedback. It actively miseducates students and produces invalid grades. So, tanaw na to ang uh, four dimensions. Actually, five ni siya. But I'm pretty sure that you already know about grammar. So, part na ang grammar diri, but four lang ako ang gibutang diri for para nito sa slide. First dimension, criteria to outcome alignment. So, every criterion in your rubric must map directly to the stated course learning objective. Unsa man ninyo objective anang lesson. So, dapat mo connect siya sa inyong rubric. Okay? Not just the best practice, this is the ethical basis of assessment. Because di ba ka maka-validly grade sa imong mga students based on skills you did not state that you did not state you were teaching. So before you finalize a rubric, go down to the criteria list and ask yourself, unsa man ang mga objective ang i-assess ani nga criteria. Dili ka ka-answer ana a question, then that criteria needs to be revised or it needs to be removed. Now, the second dimension is descriptor to task alignment. Now, the descriptors in your rubric must accurately reflect what the specific assignment requires. Now, the sound of that could be obvious, but it's a common error, especially when teachers reuse rubrics across assignments. Now, a rubric originally designed for a formal report might include descriptors about summaries, appendices, references, that those could be irrelevant kung pahimuon nimo sila og argumentative essay. So, using a misaligned rubric sends students the wrong message about what matters in the assignment. So, basically, just to wrap up number 2, dapat kung unsa ang imuhang rubric na gigamit, mao po'y activity na ginabuhat sa mga students ninyo. Next, accurate weighting and math. Now, this is one is purely mathematical, but the consequences of getting it are wrong. So, check if the weights sa inyong rubric are mo total say 100, and check that the maximum points per criterion multiplied by their weights produce the correct final score. And then you check it again. And then lastly, correct terminology. So use discipline, correct language. So for example, uh, sa argumentative essay kay unsa may mga terminology sa argumentative essay, say for example, development of ideas, so on and so forth. Naaman na yung mga process in creating an argumentative essay. So dapat magamit siya dira. Okay? Now, an inaccurate rubric is worse than no rubric at all because it creates a false sense of rigor. Uh, Now let's see what the 5 trait rubric looks like in action applied to a complete rubric revision. Now what we're looking at is a single rubric descriptor for organization at the excellent level. Before and after revision, using the 5 trait framework, makita ninyo dira. So natay before, natay after dira. Now, every design decision in the revised version can be traced back to one of the 5 traits. Now, read the before version before me. Sorry, read the before version. If you're able to read it with me. So, the student has done a good job of organizing the document in a way that makes sense and is easy for the reader to follow, and the logical organization of the document is clear and transitions are used throughout. My goodness, taas ra kayo, multiple. Tawa ninyo. If we diagnose this using the 5 traits, awa ang clarity. Kung yung clarity, di gud siya pwede because makes sense and easy to follow. These are reader reactions. Dili man ni siya characteristics sa usa ka text. Di man na nimo makitaan, di man na nimo ma-point out. And then clear and logical are very subjective adjectives without anchors. So may clear and logical. How would I know that the organization is clear and logical? Diba? Now, none of these tell a student what organizing logic actually looks like. So it's a failure already. Now, tanaw na to ang conciseness. Now, conciseness, tanaw ninyo ang words. Na ay 52 kabuok words nga naa dira. The idea organization is good is stated 3 times. Oh, good organization. Organizing in a way that makes sense. For organization. Oh, kapoy kayo basahon. Phrases like has done a good job of in a way that are actually fillers, so they fail already. Ako na to ang audience recognition. Student has done a good job reads as the teacher talking about the student rather than the rubric talking to the student. So again, make sure nga i-personalize ninyo. So your what do you call this? Yan ako mo hatag sa explanation. So, mahimo na siya nga mura na siya nang judge bitaw that the student has done a good job. So nang judge na siya. So rather than a usable guide, dili na siya guide sa mga students. So it's a fail. And then accuracy standard. Awa ang descriptor, it conflates 2 criteria. We have organization and then transitions, which belong in supposedly separate rows. Dapat organization, then dapat lahi pa ang sa transition. Now, if both organization and transitions are assessed in this one cell, then the criterion lacks boundary definition, so it fails. Now let's read the after version. So the after version says document sections follow a logical sequence tied to the stated purpose. Each paragraph opens with a clear topic sentence. Transitions between all major sections are explicit and directional. So that is 29 words. Mas better kaysa sa katong 59 words na gihatag sa kanang before, di ba? Now, it describes three observable qualities as well, na ay logical sequencing, topic sentence, explicit transitions. It's written in a declarative prose that functions as a description for the students and a guide for a teachers. The student reading this before submitting knows what exactly to check. Kabalo sila, dapat ang kanang paragraph mo open with clear topic sentence, dapat ang kanang mga transitions, so on and so forth. Hopefully, makita ninyo that the 5-trait rubric gives you a systematic set of lenses that you have to apply. And when all 5 of these standards are met, you can have a genuine confidence in your rubric's quality. Now, we have here a self-evaluation tool lang. Very, very quick lang. And you can read all through this. So, uh, this is a 15-item checklist organized by trait with 3 items per trait. So, hopefully, this will help you create your rubrics. Just very briefly lang, for clarity, you have the 3 questions there. If any of these are no, then the affected descriptor needs revision. Okay? Now, for conciseness, same gihapon, na 3 questions dira. Kindly read that one. For document design, so you have the 3 questions there as well. Audience recognition, the 3 questions, and accuracy as well, 3 questions. If naaga ni mo no ana nila, then that means you have to revise your rubric. Okay? Now, key takeaways lang, just to wrap up our session for today. Key takeaway first, number 1, a good rubric is specific, observable. Good rubric is specific, observable, weighted, and accessible to students before they begin writing. Now, ang purpose sa rubric is not just to grade the work, but it's to shape the quality of that work by making expectations visible in advance. Second takeaway is to follow the 6-step design process. So identify the task, set your criteria, define your performance levels, write your descriptors, assign weights, and pilot and refine. So do not skip the steps, and do not treat step 6 as optional, though for our IMA, you can totally skip the step 6, or you can ask AI to refine your rubric. Number 3, apply clarity to every descriptor. So again, if ang duha ka teachers dili sila mo agree on what a descriptor means, then you have to rewrite it until masabtan nilang duha unsay pasabot. That is the test of a good descriptor. Number 4, apply conciseness, document design, and audience recognition together. So keep your cells tight, 15 to 30 words only per cell, and then use a table format with visual hierarchy, and write for students, not just for yourself. And if dili gani magamit sa mga students ang imong rubric as a guide, then your rubric is not working. And the last takeaway, apply accuracy as your final check. Confirm that every criterion checks a learning outcome, and that descriptors match the task requirements, and that the scoring math is mathing or correct. An inaccurate rubric produces invalid grades and misinforms student learning. Now, one last thought before we close. Writing a rubric is itself a technical writing task. Apply the same standards you teach. So, this is the most important insight, because as a student as a BSET English student, you are going to spend a portion of your career in teaching students to communicate with precision, with economy, with the awareness of their audience. So every rubric that you write is an opportunity to model those standards. Now, kung imong rubric klaro, if makitaan sa mga students kung unsa may what a clear writing looks like. If your rubric is concise, then students will see what concise writing looks like. When your rubric is well designed, then students see what accessible document design looks like. The rubric is not just an assessment tool, it is a model text. So the next time you sit down to write a rubric or inibuhat ninyo sa inyong IMA, ask yourself, if I submitted this document in my own class as a writing example, would it earn an excellent on my own rubric? So that's a high bar that you have to raise, and that's exactly the right one to hold yourself to. Thank you everyone for taking the time, and see you in our next topic.